Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, a weekly show helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. Today, episode 303, Know Thyself. And now, Experience of the Soul.
Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. I am Cynthia Alice Anderson. I welcome you into the show. Friends, today is a beautiful day. It's a great day to be alive, and praise God for my coffee. I needed a little bit this morning, and so happy to be in the studio with my good friend and producer, Mr. Sean Kilgore.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It is Monday, April 8th, and this is episode 303 of Experience of the Soul, Know Thyself.
Wow. The way you said that, I almost felt a character coming out, Sean.
Oh, really?
No,
we were just talking about Fiddler. Maybe I was doing my Tevye.
Yeah, right. Oh, yes. Oh, wow. Yes, that show, it was fun talking with you about that. And it's funny that the topic today is Know Thyself, because our histories are not dissimilar in terms of our love of music and musicals. And you've been a little more on the acting and singing side than me. And I've been a little more, I think, in the orchestra or conducting side. But I think we both grew up on those kind of things, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. I always said I got my love of musical theater from my mom and my love of 70s classic rock from my dad, because my mom, everything was show albums and
yes.
Yeah. And then my dad was at like Styx and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, which I still listen to almost every day,
Right. Well, I was going to ask, does he also like muscle cars?
No, not so much, but
Well, I love that 70s rock too. To me, well, what we now call rock is not even rock to me, but I'm showing my age, obviously.
Yeah, these kids today with their rock music.
Exactly. I do kind of like muscle cars, but that's another story. And classic trucks and classic trucks. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Know Thyself, right? You gave us the title, but before I got into today's show, after the last show, you and I were talking, and I want to bring our listeners a little bit up to speed because, first of all, I can't believe we're already this far in April, and the year for me has flown by. There's been a lot of, releasing and letting go, and our last couple of shows, as always, I'm bringing everybody along with me. The last show we talked about new beginnings, and then we were saying that, to live from soul, we have to ground ourselves so that it's more easy, not easy, but that we can integrate, I guess, better and on a more regular basis if we use several grounding techniques. And afterwards, you and I talked, and I know that there's some a technique you use that was kind of similar to what I was speaking about. So I wanted you to give a little bit of your journey, Sean, just because I want our listeners to get to know you a little bit as well and hear about your journey.
Excellent. Well, yeah. So when I first found you back in the day, I grew up in religion. I grew up raised Lutheran,
right.
And I definitely fell out of that as I became older and started to discover who I was and learned what they thought about who I was. And I didn't think that there was a place for that God in my life. It didn't seem like there was
too
a way
judgmental.
Forward.
Yeah.
And then when I found you, that was really the beginning of what has been my spiritual journey. And it has grown immensely. This has been 13 years now, if you can believe that. 13 years ago was the very first time I ever met you and came to see you. And so where I'm at right now is I'm in a place where I have grown. I feel like I have prospered and I have evolved, under your spiritual leadership. And it's just been an amazing journey. And as we were talking about, being outside and being in nature, that's something that's
getting grounded.
Yes, getting grounded. Yeah, that's a huge thing for me too. I'm born in July, so Cancer. I love the water. I love being near the water. I love being near the beach, but I also love being out in nature too. And that was one of the things that I was talking about. Was one of the things I love to do is meditative walking. So you're not walking, with the purpose of like exercise or burning calories. You're walking with the purpose of just being with nature, taking it all in. And one of the things
Yes.
that I listen to while I'm doing that is this pretty long recording of like ethereal kind of music, and it's a voiceover, and it's a guy saying, I am loving awareness, and just over and over and
Beautiful.
over. And
Beautiful.
as it is, as you say it changes. The meaning changes each time. I am loving
Yes.
awareness. I am
Yes.
loving awareness.
Yes.
All of those types of things. And just to stay in that energy for 30, 40 minutes while walking and looking at the trees and smelling the smells of the leaves. And, if it had just rained, I love that smell of wet dirt,
I do too.
wet earth,
Totally true. Totally true. Yeah.
But where I am today is, largely due and thanks to your leadership. And I mean, I couldn't be more grateful and more appreciative. And I really feel, that I'm living my purpose. I knew that I had a greater purpose, and helping you get your message out there, it has made me feel so on purpose. So.
Oh, I love it. And thank you for saying that, Sean. Of course, I'm honored to support you. And I had a doctor friend one time say, he was a chiropractor, and he said to me, 90% of your healing happens after you leave my office. And I was like, well, that's true, isn't it? And that what you're saying is true spiritually as well, because I can give the message and I can talk about my journey, and I love to do it, and I will keep doing it. But it's what you do in taking it forward in your own life that makes the healing. So, happy and glad I can support, and I want to honor you for your work. And that's really, you're totally and perfectly leading us into what today is, because it is about know thyself. I think we even said already, that's the title, know thyself. And your journey with walking in nature, and and just doing that spiritual work, that is the deeper knowing of knowing oneself. And what our world says, and you know this as well as I do, Sean, especially as an actor, as somebody who's performed a lot, that people love when we're a character. And in life, we often take on this idea that we're a character, and we don't get to know what's under there, the real self. And even though you play an actor on TV, you in truth, you're doing that real work. Know thyself. Yeah.
I remember the very first time I ever heard you say, and this isn't going to be an exact quote, but it was
that's
something,
fine. That's fine. Mm-hmm.
Something to the effect of, it doesn't end here on Sunday. When you're there and you're at church, you got to keep church. You got to focus and make it and keep it with you throughout the week, every single day. You have to make time for that spiritual connection every single day. And that was, many, many years ago. I heard you say that, and that's really what changed the game for me, and what brought me to this place. So
yes, well, and again, you're saying something very important, because even with daily work, life is still a challenge, because that's life on life's terms. But it's less of a challenge when you are seeking to live from love, seeking to live from soul, seeking to live, like you said, on purpose. And it's one of the reasons I happen to have right here my intentions journal. It was interesting. I was telling Sean before we came on today too, that I, for years, this used to be a series of notebooks. Then I, moved it into worksheets. So I was being thrifty, and I was finishing up my own worksheets before I went to my own journal, which is hilarious, because I had a box of journals sitting here, but
great.
I couldn't waste, the other one. And as the mom and me came out, like, use it up,
That's paper. That's good paper.
That's good paper. But as I opened this today, it was really funny to just realize the work, the time, the energy that had gone into making this journal, and then the benefit of me just sitting and working again. It was so freeing and so awesome. And it's what the journey is. One of my favorite quotes, which I actually heard from a therapist friend. I don't think I read it in school because, I went to a Christian school and people like Socrates were evil. And, but the phrase is, or the statement is, the quote is, an unexamined life is not worth living. That's Socrates. An unexamined life is not worth living. And I first heard that statement in my late 20s when I was learning about codependence, when I was learning about how when you grow up in an alcoholic family and you take on behaviors, that was when I found Al-Anon, and I realized my life up to that point was largely unexamined. I was simply going through the motions. So, Sean, you sharing your journey lets our listeners know you're really living it too. You're really seeking to live a spiritual life, and that's what this is all about today. An examined life, not an unexamined life, right? An examined life where we're becoming conscious, where we are becoming aware, where we are moving into what is ours to do on a soul level. And the beautiful thing about that is, as we do that on the soul level, it starts to outpicture in our work, in our relationships, in our parenting, in our friendships. So the idea, know thyself, this is an ancient idea. If you've studied Greece or history at all, this is over the temple at Delphi, and it's etched in the stone there. Know thyself. Know thyself. So it is not a new idea that some of us walk through life unconscious, but the leaders, the thinkers, the pioneers, the creators learn to examine what is and what's coming forward to become conscious beings and to live from soul and on purpose. In other words, an examined life. And this is our goal here at the Experience of the Soul. We are living a life, yes, that is on purpose. Yes, that is from soul, but we're not trying to point it a certain direction necessarily, except to evolve. To evolve, we must know ourselves. We must know ourselves. And the reason I love to use quotes and phrases from times gone past is because the teachings I teach are eternal. They're not passing fads. They're not new agey. They are grounded in timeless truth. It's why when I quote the scriptures, I try to give you strong examples of how even in biblical times, they were struggling with the very same things. As a matter of fact, the scriptures in the Gospel of Thomas, and if you've never heard of the Gospel of Thomas, I want to encourage you to do a little research on that. It's many people call it some of the hidden Gospels or the lost Gospels. But there's a great statement from the Gospel of Thomas, and luckily Sean can put that up on the screen. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And friends, I have never read a more true statement. I'm going to read it one more time, just in case you're just listening and not able to watch. I want you to get this. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. This also takes us back to that wise statement, an unexamined life is not worth living. Know thyself, friends. Know thyself. So there are, what keeps us from doing this, from knowing ourselves, from examining what's within us, is we've lived from this created facade for so long that we have mistakenly started to believe that our personality is our whole and complete self. I've done this myself. We all have. Any spiritual leader or teacher who says they haven't is not being truthful, because every leader of any kind knows that the temptations of the personality are constant. Why is this so? Well, when we're growing and developing as human beings, we grow up in families, many of whom are lovely. They're good people. They're doing the best they can, and I would include my own family in that. I've shared some of the hard stuff, but did I know I was loved? Yeah, absolutely. I knew I was loved. Well, part of how a human develops is they take on certain characteristics to get their needs met. That's called surviving. So depending on what our family codes and systems are like, there's whole fields of study on this now called family systems theory, and basically all of psychology is based on this idea that we develop personalities based on how we were raised, and because that personality has helped us as we've developed get our basic needs met, it's hard to believe as we develop that personality self is mostly a false self. We have an ego, meaning our whole life energy, but the spiritual nature gets covered up by this neediness. Well, when we're babies and we're needing love and we're needing to survive and we're needing to be held and we're needing food and we're needing water and we're needing love, we'll do whatever it is to get those people around us to love us. And so it's like, it doesn't matter whether you're young or old at this point in life. It doesn't matter if you're white or black, if you're Asian, if it just, none of that matters. If you're a human walking around on the planet today, you had to learn to get those needs met to grow and develop. And that's how your personality was created. And because to get those needs met, you had to shift and change and move, which again is all a part of a normal development. Parts of your authentic self, parts of your spiritual self, parts of your, I will say it this way, your personal and spiritual power are hidden. It's like you start as this, a teacher friend of mine, Robert Brummett, who I quote often, used to say, it's like, you start as this whole piece of cheese, and as we develop, you get little holes in it so that by the time we're grown-ups, we're kind of like Swiss cheese walking around. And I always thought that was a funny example, but it gave me the visual to think about, well, isn't that how it is? Because parts of us go hidden, parts of us seem to even go missing, and we're walking around as if everything is okay. We're walking around as if this is how I am right now is my only reality. And I'll even speak specifically. For me, I can attach to my position. I can attach to how well I'm known or things like that, and make that mean that is my whole identity. For instance, when you're a minister, people only see you as a minister, not as a person. Well, when you've done it for a while, like I have, pretty soon you start taking on other people's projection of you. And I have certainly done that. As a matter of fact, just about every year, I take myself up the 7 steps, which is a forgiveness and release process. And we can put that in the show notes for you, a link to that. I'm going to make a note to do that, a link for the 7 steps. And I'll do that process. And I not only forgive, I take my current understanding of my personality up those steps and release it to God, because I'm trying to get back to my authentic, real self. And I'll give you some examples of what I mean. So I said, as a minister, people only view me one way. people would never imagine some of the things I enjoy doing in my personal time because that does not fit their definition of minister. It's why when I was doing the Sunday night worship, it was one of the reasons, I should say, that I did a series about, I called it the spiritual roadmap, because I love to drive so much and I love cars and I love learning about cars and trucks and classic trucks. And I love going fast and I love experiencing new things. Well, for some people, that doesn't fit the title or the understanding of minister. So one of the reasons I spoke to it publicly for me was it was a way for me to start releasing some of that projection of myself. Sometimes I project on my own self. A minister shouldn't do these things, even though there's nothing morally wrong, of course, with loving cars or things like that. I love going to Broadway shows. Well, maybe not. Would a minister do that? So all this to say, these are a few ways that I know people project onto me. And my work is to come out of that projection and live from my true self. Well, how do I know those projections are there? Know thyself. Know thyself. I know by the way I feel. I know if I'm starting to feel judged by myself or by others, that I need to take a look at that. Because the truth is, friends, my guide is God, my source is God. And if I'm living from God, those opinions, those projections, even of myself, are to be released and let go. In the last couple of shows, I talked about releasing old energy and forgiveness. And in that forgiveness work, I was forgiving myself as well, because in that forgiveness work, I would see these self-proclaimed projections and realize that those were really, really limiting my view of myself, and they were really limiting how God could potentially use me to bless others, that I was limiting my awareness of my own self. And I was trying to go different directions, trying to do different things. And it's like, I don't need to worry about my next steps. God has got that for me. I don't need to worry about how this looks or that looks. God has got this for me. So knowing thyself, it's like I want to watch my internal reactions when things happen. I want to watch my attachment to my quote unquote image. I want to release others' projections of myself. Now, sometimes to know thyself, we need help and support. Sometimes that means working with a therapist one-on-one. Most often, I've noticed recently, several of my clients that I'm working with now have worked with therapists for years and years, and the therapists have no spiritual understanding. And so what ends up happening is they are constantly reliving, regurgitating, re-traumatizing themselves by revisiting the past so much that they're not able to move forward. And so in my work with people, we are looking through a spiritual lens. And so not only are we seeing the personality, but we're seeing what's under the personality, trying to come forward and nurture that. And then some of those tendencies of the personality drop away automatically. They don't have to be gotten rid of by a medication or necessarily, or they don't have to be overly analyzed. Sometimes those parts of the personality need to be released. Sometimes they need to be loved. Sometimes they need to be nurtured. So, know thyself. So if you are feeling a little stuck right now or not sure why things aren't working, it's time to pause and do some inner work. I really want to encourage you, if you're feeling stuck to the point of depression, to please, please, please reach out to someone. There is a depression hotline. There's a suicide hotline. We'll put those for you in the show notes to make sure that there's support for you there. I can support you, on a support call. Please, please, please reach out. But friends, when you try to do life from the personality, it is always a dead end because the personality is rooted in limits. The personality is rooted in survival, not in thriving at the level of the soul. So the personality will keep you small, it will keep you stuck, and it will keep you very myopic in your approach to life. And the soul will constantly be expanding you, bringing you into your next steps. It's a miracle to live from soul. It really, really is. The personality is so limited. The personality will tell you you only need to worry about money, and as long as you have money in the bank, everything is okay. Get what you want. The one with the most toys wins. These are the messages of the personality, and sometimes those messages are really, really subtle. And I want you to be able to identify those and to live from soul. It is absolutely a miracle to live from soul. It is. The freedom I feel in my life right now is so beautiful. And I really have to say that this recent forgiveness work really freed me up in a whole new way. And I will say very honestly, I don't feel I've ever been here before. Now, if you listened to the show 2 years ago, I probably said that then. And you know what? Well, that was true for then too. Because what's so amazing as you look inward to know yourself, in other words, if you're diving deep to know what needs to be healed, what needs to be revealed, and reveal that, well, then healing can take place. And so as the healing takes place, it's like your energy all of a sudden feels lighter and you feel more at peace and you feel more joy. And that's where I am. I was not there a few weeks ago. I just wasn't. And I didn't pretend I was. Right? It's part of the journey up and down. But the way we grow is to know thyself. In other words, to examine what's there. What are our likes and dislikes? What are our likes and dislikes? What are our tendencies? What are our desires? And looking at those and rather just mindlessly operating, becoming conscious, like bringing those to light. There's a prayer called the grace prayer. And Sean, I don't know if you can look that up quickly or not, but I probably have a copy of it. It's called the Grace Prayer, and the words are something like, God, heal what needs to be healed, reveal what needs to be revealed.
I do have it here.
Can you read that for me?
Sure. Lord God, Heavenly Father, bless us and these thy gifts, which we receive from thy bountiful goodness through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. It says, or alternatively, the eyes of all look to you, O Lord, and you give them their food at the proper time. You open their hand and satisfy the desires of every living thing.
Both beautiful, but not the prayer I was talking about.
Well, hey.
Yeah, it's a unity prayer. It's like reveal. Okay, type in the words, and I just keep this all on the air. Don't edit this out because this is how sometimes it's fine. It's like reveal what needs to be revealed, heal what needs to be healed. And if you can't find it quickly, I will find it and put it in show notes.
Yes. Reveal that which needs to be revealed. Heal that which needs to be healed, so I can glorify you, God, and live in the fullness of grace. It is finished. Yes.
Read that one more time. Gosh, that just gives me God bumps. Yeah. I love that one. Mm-hmm.
This is the full grace prayer. I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah, there's more there. Mm-hmm.
For thee I thirst. Yes. Into thy hands I commit my spirit, my soul, my body, my life, this problem, all unforgiven states. Thy will is my will. Thy will be done through me. Heal me at depth. reveal that which needs to be revealed, heal that which needs to be healed, so I can glorify you, God, and live in the fullness of grace. It is finished.
Beautiful. Yes. The grace prayer. That one has gotten me through a number of life's trials. I remember when I had first moved to Kansas City, I had left my entire music career in Seattle. People thought I was just absolutely nuts. And I kind of did too. Once I got there, I said, oh my goodness, was this a good idea? And this prayer, literally somebody put it in my hand and said, I think this is for you. It was really such a time of being guided. And that prayer, I said that prayer every day, like 3 times a day. I'm surprised I couldn't pull it up in memory. So my commitment to my podcast audience and friends is to commit that to memory before our next show. That's a great prayer, and I think we'll support you in this idea. Sean, at the end, I'm going to have you say it. We're almost wrapping up here, so don't go away. I want you to read it for us again at the end. But friend, it totally encapsulates and wraps up what I have said. I may not have said it well, is that we are seeking to know ourselves so we can glorify God. We're seeking to remove the blocks, right? To remove these aspects of the personality that we become overly identified with and attached to as if they're our reality, and let that Spirit of God, live and shine in and through us, so that our lives are not only blessed, but that we can be a blessing in the world. And of course, so that we can glorify God. It's like I often say, we're here to grow, prosper, and evolve. Why? Because that glorifies God. It's like that is all the good that we're here to bring. So I want to leave you with this prayer. And Sean, if we can put it, if there's room in show notes, that would be great.
Absolutely.
And I'll also share it separately with my email list in an email. And that gives me the point to mention, friends, if you listen to the podcast and you're not on my email list, I send a weekly message, and it really might support your journey even further to be on the email list. And you can just go to my website and sign up there at CynthiaAliceAnderson.com, or they can even contact you, Sean, right?
Absolutely. Well, actually, we will post that prayer on the social media also.
Oh, perfect.
But yeah,
let's do that.
Anytime you want to get in touch, you can always get in touch through social media. Also very active on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Yeah. And friends, please subscribe, follow. And here's what I've learned. I have really had a love-hate relationship with technology, and because of how it can be used negatively in our world. But that said, we're not using it negatively. We're using it positively. And a friend of mine said to me, who's a great supporter of the show, she said, well, with you and social media, she said, let me say this. Doesn't the Dalai Lama use a computer made by the Chinese who have imprisoned his own people to get a message back to his own people? I said, well, yeah. And she said, so it's how you use it. And, because I just was struggling with that. And the truth is, friends, we're not trying to sell you anything you don't need. What we're trying to do is make life better for you, because you're living a life from soul. And every time you follow, subscribe, like, comment, that tells all those little minions, all those little algorithms to go to this person for spiritual support. So it's like, if this supports you, those little things of liking and subscribing will not only help you get more of it, it'll help more people get more of it. And that took me a long time to just accept and be okay with.
What I'd like to add to that is, even though our mission is grow, prosper, and evolve, the work that you're putting out there, that I'm thrilled to be supporting, is also helping us find peace in a time when it's very hard to find peace.
Yes.
You cannot look at what's happening in the world and find that peace within yourself. So that, I believe, is also a big goal for us, is to help us all get to that place of. Yes,
you're right, Sean. And it's like we're constantly having to refocus and go inward. The world around us is full of, there's so much evil. And I'm going to do a show on the problem of evil, as a matter of fact. And we're going to start addressing some of the larger problems and then how to deal with them individually. And, my shows are always so individual, but it is so that you can go out there and live, and like you say, Sean, and recenter and have a life of peace in a world that seems full of evil and chaos. So.
Absolutely.
Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to leave you with this prayer. I want to have Sean read it to you, the grace prayer. And of course, our hope and prayer is that you take this in, that you work this, and that you seek to know more of yourself. And as you do, you're going to find, as you know yourself, you're going to find more of God, right? So that is our hope, and that is our prayer.
Amen. The Unity Grace Prayer. For thee I thirst, into thy hands I commit my spirit, my soul, my body, my life, this problem, all unforgiven states. Thy will is my will. Thy will be done through me. Heal me at depth. Reveal that which needs to be revealed. Heal that which needs to be healed, so I can glorify you, God, and live in the fullness of grace. It is finished.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Blessings on the journey, dear friends.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. This podcast is made possible because of listeners and viewers just like you. If you would like to support the podcast with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head on over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Experience of the Soul podcast is copyright 2024 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved, and is produced by Sean Kilgore.
Production of the Soulworks Group, Incorporated.